Hello everybody. Today we are going to continue building the character animation in good old-fashioned pixel art. At the moment we have an idle animation, which is just 2 frames. We have a walk right and a walk left, which is basically just mirrored. And we have a walk up. Today we're going to do the walk down. And we're going to add in its first basic attacking animation. So with that said, let's go ahead and duplicate the idle. We're going to rename this to walk down. We're going to delete the second frame and we're going to duplicate the first frame. Now, like we did with the walk up animation, a lot of this stems around where the feet are placed on the ground. So the first thing we're going to start doing is animating the legs. So with the second frame highlighted, because I like to use the first one as a control, we're just going to go ahead and delete the first row of frames here. Then we're going to duplicate the first one again, drag it out, and we're going to delete that row. Then we're going to drag the first frame in between the two, and we're going to copy out the first frame again, which is now the second frame, and drag it to the end. So you should have leg up, both legs down, leg up, both legs down. And then if you play that on a loop at the same speed as the walk left, right and ups, which is 5, you can see that he's got a very primitive march. But it's not going to cut it because it doesn't look as good as the other ones. So the first thing we're going to need to do now, or the second thing, is start working our way up the body and start swinging the arms. So if you notice with the walk up animation, the arms swing left and right. We want the same thing to happen on the way down. So as his left foot goes up, his right arm is going to come forwards and his left arm is going to go backwards. So let's copy those frames and just move them in, and I'm going to go ahead and select this purple color and drag it all the way down, select the pink, and I'm going to pop it back up there for 2 frames. Then I'm going to leave this one the same, and then I'm going to do the exact opposite on this side. Select those 2 frames there, move them across. I'm going to drag the purple color down, select the pink, and pop that up there. Now when I play it, it's like he's swinging his arms left and right, but this middle part of the body isn't really doing anything and it doesn't really look that good, so we're going to change it slightly. This hand here, we're going to move it up so it's just a square, and then the same thing here, we're going to move it up so it's just a square. And now as his left arm comes forward, I think we're going to move the shirt here just a little bit narrower, and the same thing on this side, and the same with his belt, so it looks like his body's swinging a little bit more. Now again, on the frames where his legs are up, we're going to move the head down. So I'm going to go ahead and select everything from the ears, drop it down, and I'm going to go ahead and select the pink and just fill in there. I'm going to do the exact same thing on the other side, just from the ears down, and then I'm going to go ahead and select the pink. There we go. Looks like his head's bobbing quite nicely now. I'm going to make his eyes, I think, go left to right as he's walking. So as his left arm goes forward, he's going to look to the right, and then as his other arm comes forward, I'm going to get him looking the other way. So the first frame should also be looking left. So he's got 2 frames looking left, 2 frames looking right, rather. 2 frames looking right, 2 frames looking left. There we go. And there's his nice little walk forward animation. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to add in an attack, and we're going to do that facing towards the right. So we're going to duplicate the right walk animation, and we're going to call this one attack 1. You can have multiple attacks. We'll just do the one for now. Now I'm going to give him a large stick that he can swing. You could make it a sword, I suppose. But you can see right now we're not going to have enough room to add this in because the frame is too small. So we're going to go ahead and change that. So click on the 2 little arrows here, and we're going to change the width to 24. And then we're going to align it to the top left, which is basically the image point, which will be up here, and then it will extend the canvas out to the right. You can change that to the center if you want, but I don't want any more space on the left side of him. I just want it on the right. And we're going to apply this to the whole animation, so all the frames. Now that's not going to make a difference with the walking right, as long as the image point is in the same place, which we currently have right in the middle. As long as that image point's in the same place, it's not going to make a difference as to where he is. So I'm going to go ahead and delete the frames there and just have this first frame. And then the first thing I like to do when I'm making an attack animation is just draw the keyframes, which are usually the most predominant frame. So the starting frame, maybe the end frame, and then the midpoint frames I can just fill in between. So I want him to end his pose basically slamming or swinging a stick in a circular motion. So the first thing I'm going to do is duplicate out that first frame, so I've got a control, and I'm going to go ahead and get rid of his hand because his hand's not going to be there. His hand at the end of this animation is going to be out here in front, and you're not going to see that. And I'm going to make it just there. His head's also going to be slightly further back because he's going to lean back as he's swinging. And the stick that he's got is going to come out nice and straight to the right. So that's the end frame. In fact, I might even pop in the second hand up there so it looks like he's swinging it with 2 hands. Now I'm going to go ahead and duplicate the first frame again, and this is where I'm going to put where I want him to start the animation from. Now I'm actually going to highlight the whole thing and move him over a couple of frames. Now this is important to do. You've got to make sure that that image point is exactly in the right spot. So you can see it's right there between his arms, which is where it was in that first frame. And then basically the canvas is going to shift around, but the player is going to stay in the same place. I'm going to cover his hand up, and I'm going to draw a hand back there. And there. And then I'm going to go ahead and get the stick and draw it back that way. Now his head's going to turn. It's not going to be side on here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy the head from the idle frame. I'm going to just draw a box around it and push Control C. And then I'm going to go ahead to this frame here, delete what I have there. I'm going to paste it in there. There. So there's my keyframe. So the start and the finish of the animation. What I will do is widen his stance a little bit, I think, and take that leg off the floor. I think I'll probably lift it a little bit more predominantly there, and we'll put the belt in the middle too. Oh, and the white bit here will also be there. Now that I'm happy with my start and end of the animation, I'm going to delete the control frame, and I'm going to duplicate the second frame here to create my first in between, and I'm going to delete the whole stick there. And this is basically the midpoint. So I'm going to get the stick first. If I imagine the stick starting back here and finishing here, the midpoint of it is probably going to be somewhere there, as in midway swinging round. And the hands are going to finish here, so they're probably going to be there. And I don't like this little gap here, so I'm going to go ahead and fill that in. And make the eyes somewhere with the head turning to the right, but the eyes facing central. And now let's just see what that looks like. So you can see he's moving through that quite nicely. The legs we need to sort out because they've just got 2 frames here. So the first frame where he is got the leg in the air, and then it's just back to normal. So let's do the in between for the legs. So I think the leg in the first frame is going to be up and apart, and then in the second frame it's going to be down and apart before coming back together. There you go. Let's also slide his head to the right and to the right, so his head's moving backwards as he swings as well, which is quite nice. Obviously we need this to be a bit faster, so let's bump that speed up to 10. Okay, I want to change the starting frame. I think the stick that he's swinging here needs to start from a higher position. So let's just go ahead and cover those hands back in. Get rid of that left ear there. And let's bring the hands up to here. And draw the stick right up to the top. See what that looks like. Yeah, that's a little bit better. I think it needs to be a tad faster as well, so let's go ahead and bump that up to 15. There you go. And now he's swinging it quite nicely. I think the final frame on the end needs to go all the way around, so let's go ahead and take the hands up there. Get rid of the stick at that angle, and let's have the stick swing up in that direction. There we go. That's quite nice. A nice little swing. Right, let's link this together now in the event sheet. So the first thing you're going to want to do is add in the keyboard. And we're going to add an event, and we're going to say keyboard on key is down. And we are going to say A, and I'm going to copy that out 4 times. And I'm going to change this one to D, and I'm going to change this one to W, and I'm going to change this one to S, because those are going to be my movement keys. Let's go ahead now and give this guy the 8 direction behavior. And over on the left in the behaviors, we're going to change the max speed to 50. We're going to get rid of default controls. We're going to change set angle to no. I'm going to leave them on 8 directions. And I'm going to say when the A key is down, my sprite guy is going to simulate the control to move left. And I'm going to change this to right, up and down. So now I can move him around, but you can see he's just playing that one animation. So let's go ahead now and give him some basic states. So a basic state machine, if you will. And the easiest way to do this is to say system, every tick. In fact, before we do that, we need to give him the instance variable that will control it. So we're going to call this one state, and it's going to be a string. The starting value is going to be idle, because we want him to start in that idle pose. And now it's very important here that we reference the exact name of each animation as we've written it here. And you can see that I always like to do mine in a very similar or very consistent naming convention, where I write the first word in lowercase and then I start a capital letter for each subsequent word with no spaces in between. So if we go every tick, we're going to say sprite, and we're going to set his animation, and we're going to set it to his state. So we're going to reference him, which is the guy, the sprite, and we're going to say dot, and we're going to say state, which is that instance variable we just gave him. So every single tick, so every single moment of the game, this guy is going to always play the animation that is written here in his state. So if we play it, he's just going to idle because we've given him that idle state. Now when we reference the A, D, W and S, we can simply just change his state. So we can come over here, we can set the value of his state, and if we're pushing A, we want his state to be walk left. And likewise, if it's D, we want his state to be walk right. And with W, walk up, and S, walk down. Now this is all well and good, and he will do what you tell him to do, but if you let go of the keyboard, he's just going to remain in the state that he's in, and we don't want that. So we're going to add another event, and we're going to say keyboard, and we're going to say key is down again, and we're going to say A. And I'm just going to copy these out from here by holding Control on the keyboard and dragging them down, and I'm going to put them into their own block this time. So they're all in the same block, and when each one's highlighted, I'm just going to push I on the keyboard and I'm going to invert them, which basically means the opposite. So if the A key is not down and the D key is not down and W is not down and S is not down, so none of them are down, then I want to change his state back to idle. But now when I let go, he just goes back to idling, which is quite nice. It's just what I want. Now we need to add in the attack. So add another event, keyboard, and we're going to say this time on key pressed, and I'm going to use the spacebar for the attack key. You can use whatever key you want to. And when we press the spacebar, I want to set his state to that attack 1 animation. So I'm going to write it exactly as it is written here in the attack. And if I play this, it's not going to work. And have a think about why that might be. See, I press the spacebar key, and he just plays that first little frame. And if he said the reason was this, you'd be right, because at the moment we're saying if these keys aren't down, we set a state to idle, but we haven't referenced the spacebar key. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click in here on the last one. I'm going to push C on the keyboard, which will drop another little condition in there. And I'm going to say sprite, and I'm going to compare his states. And in here, I'm going to say attack 1, and I'm going to invert it to say if we're not pushing A, D, W, or S, and we're not attacking, then set it to idle. There you go. But you can see that when I press space, he just goes into an infinite swinging loop, which is no good. So one last thing we need to do is, after he's finished attacking, set the state back to idle, and we can do that by saying sprite on finished, and then we're going to say on finished attack 1, and we can just copy down this set state back to idle, and there we go. One thing you'll notice is we can't attack while moving, and the simple logic there is we're not telling it to do that. We're saying that if A is down, then we set the state to walk left. You might want that to be the case. You might want it that when you press space, he stops and attacks. So let's show you how to do that. If I select the top event, push B on the keyboard for a sub event, drag it out to the top, and then I'm going to click all of these, and I'm going to nest them underneath this blank event. I'm going to double click in there, and I'm going to say sprite, and I'm going to compare his instance variable, and I'm going to say attack 1 and invert it. So I'm saying basically here that if he's not attacking, then we can push A, D, W, and S to move. So we're not attacking right now, so I can move. As soon as I push space, he stops, attacks, and then goes back to whatever we're telling him to do. One last thing before we finish is you can see that whichever direction we're moving in, he always attacks to the right. We can quickly change that now for the left, but I think in the next video we'll do the attack up and the attack down, because we're going to need to draw some more animation frames for that. So let's go back to when we press space. We're going to push B for a sub event, and we're going to double click, and we're going to say keyboard key is down, and we're going to say A. I'm going to copy and paste that, change that one to D, and all I'm going to do is say sprite, and I'm going to say set mirrored. I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to say set not mirrored. But you can see that's causing us a bit of an issue, because now he's mirroring left and right and whatnot. And the reason for that is because we're trying to tell the system two things. We're trying to use the mirrored events to flip the player left and right, but we've also got a left and right animation here. So I'm going to go ahead and change walk right to just walk. I'm going to go ahead and delete walk left, and I'm going to go back to my event sheet, and I'm going to change the state that I want him to be in to just walk for both walk left and walk right. And I'm going to go ahead and put in here set mirrored and not mirrored on the walking animation, and now it will work just fine. Like I said, we're going to do the ups and downs in the next video. We can add in a different weapon type like a gun, and I'll show you how to switch between those as well. Maybe we'll add some background, who knows, maybe we can turn this into another little project. You let me know in the comments if you'd like to see that. But that's it for this time, guys. Thanks for sticking around, thanks for watching, and if you want to help support the channel, why not head over and check out the Patreon. There's a whole bunch of good stuff over there, a bunch of source files, more tutorials, and I can help you directly with any of your Construct 3 problems. So until then, I'll see you in the next video.